So Modern Warfare 3 has now launched, and today I'm going to share with you how to earn headshot kills as fast and as easily as possible in the game. This is going to be useful for people that want to do the camo grind, maybe certain challenges later in the game's life cycle you'll need to get headshots, whatever it's for. Here is the guide for you on how to get headshots really fast in Modern Warfare 3. If you want help with any other specific parts of the camo grind, then check out my Modern Warfare 3 camo guides playlist via the card on screen or link in the description, and be sure to leave a like if you find this guide helpful so that other people can find this headshot guide too. Without further ado though, let's dive straight into this headshot guide. For the camo grind, headshots are needed for a variety of weapons for the mastery camo challenges. They're needed for all assault rifles, all battle rifles, all marksman rifles, and they're needed for certain other weapons. So they're needed for 2 of the 3 sniper rifles and 2 of the 4 pistols. So let's quickly talk about the class setup, then we'll talk about the best game modes, maps, and then some quick tips to help you get headshots even faster as well. So starting out with the class setup, attachments may vary from class to class obviously, so if the specific attachment isn't available for the weapon you're using, just try and find the most similar one with the most similar benefits of those attachments. I'll talk about attachments in a minute, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is the perks. So in Modern Warfare 3, you kind of have like an outfit, you've got different bits of gear, and each of those will be part of your outfit and will act like a specific perk. So the first thing you want to put on is a vest, and I'd recommend going for the gunner vest, as this allows you to deploy with maximum ammo, so you can have more ammo at your disposal, and it improves your reload speed, so you have quicker reload speed, and you're less likely to be caught out in the middle of a gunfight while reloading, which is really helpful. I found that's quite annoying in this game, so definitely I would recommend putting this on for this camo grind when getting headshots. The next piece of your outfit are the gloves, which basically acts as like perk 1, and I'd recommend either putting on marksman gloves or scavenger gloves. Now marksman gloves are going to reduce your sway and flinch while aiming down sight, so you're going to be more accurate on your target, which is useful when you're getting your headshots. But alternatively, if you don't want that, you can also put on scavenger gloves, where you can resupply ammo and throwing knives from dead players. Then for the next perk, i.e. perk 2, it's a piece of gear. I'd recommend putting on the blacklight flashlight, which is basically the tracker perk, so it shows you recent enemy footsteps. You can see that footprint trail to see where enemies have been and where they're going, which is really useful. Or alternatively, if you don't want that, you can put on the bone conduction headset, and it allows improved identification of enemy footsteps and gunshots. It tunes out the background noise. It allows you to hear footsteps and gunshots easier to find where enemies are. Either of these pieces of gear is going to help you find where enemies are. Alternatively, if you don't like either of those, you can also put on EOD padding, which reduces damage from non-killstreak explosives and fire, but I think one of the other two is going to be more important for getting headshots. Now for the third perk, that's basically the type of footwear you're using, but because of the type of vest we're using, it blocks the footwear. So if you're using a different vest, you can put on some footwear, but for my class setup, you don't get access to the footwear because you've got a more enhanced vest. So ignore the third perk, you don't need it. And then moving on to the equipment. First of all, for the tactical equipment, I'd recommend putting on a stun grenade, which can slow the victim's movement and their aiming, which means basically that enemies are an easier target to run up to them and aim at their head. Alternatively, if you don't like that or you don't want to use that, you can also use something like a stim just to heal if you're in the middle of a gunfight and you're taking damage. But I think the stun grenade is probably more useful. And then for the lethal, don't worry what you put on, it doesn't matter, we're not really going to use it as it will take away from kills you can get with your weapon, so just ignore it for now. And then for the field upgrade, I'd recommend putting on dead silence, which temporarily makes your footsteps silent and applies ghost, so you're going to be less easily identified by the enemy and you can be more stealthy, which is good, which means you can get up and closer to the enemy to hopefully get your headshots more easily. Also with this dead silence, if you get a gun, melee or throwing knife kill, it will refresh the duration, so it'll go on for longer and longer, which is good. If you don't like that, you can put on a munitions box, but I think dead silence is probably more useful for you guys. Now for the score streaks, it doesn't really matter what ones you put on, but I definitely recommend putting on a UAV and probably a counter UAV as well, just so you can see where enemies are on the minimap more easily and you can block their radar so they can't see you. Now for the actual attachments for the weapon, I'm using an assault rifle as an example. I'm using the SVA 545. So first of all, I've gone for the Cronin Mini Pro optic, but you can also put on the Slimline Pro if you want. It just makes a nice, sleek, simple, clear optic. It doesn't block out too much of the vision and it's nice and easy to see the enemy. If you don't feel it's magnified enough, you can put on a more magnified one, but I think this is good enough for me. Then I've gone for the Broadhead 3DP muzzle, which makes you undetectable by radar. It improves your firing aim stability and your recoil control, so basically you're more accurate with the weapon, so your gun isn't kicking up as much, which is really, really good. The next attachment I've gone for is the Warpig short barrel, and this improves your sprint to fire speed and your aim down sight speed, as well as your sprinting speed overall. So it makes you kind of more agile, faster, and you're more easily able to get around the map to get to enemies. For the rear grip, I've gone for the Citadel grip, and this improves your gun kick control, the aim down sight speed, and the recoil control, again making your gun kick less. You're more accurate, you're more likely to be able to stay on target to shoot people in the head to get your headshots basically. And finally, we've got the 45 round mag for the magazine, which increases your mag's ammo capacity. For this weapon, it went from 30 to 45 rounds, but depending on the weapon, it will be different. You just want to go something sort of middle of the road. You don't want to go for something super big with a massive magazine where it's very chunky and slow. You don't want to go for something small where you've not got enough ammo and you have to keep reloading. So it's just something something in between is quite good. That's why I like the 45 round mag. But obviously if you don't feel like you need it, then just put on another attachment instead. Now I want to talk about the best maps and modes. So I'd recommend for the game mode, you could go for ones like free for all, and you could do this either in hardcore or core, as it's kind of close quarters combat. There's lots of enemies nearby. Everyone's an enemy, so you get more chance of getting kills and headshots, which is good. You could also go for domination, because basically the spawns don't flip, so it's easier to get closer to or flank around enemies and to get between them for easier headshots, and basically you have a higher chance of finding inactive players in the spawn as well, because the spawns won't flip. So that's another mode you could do. You could play other modes like team deathmatch, hardpoint, kill confirmed, those kind of modes, and I'd recommend doing it in core. I would say not hardcore, because if you do hardcore, you're more likely to shoot off target and you'll kill them by shooting them in the neck or the torso, whereas if you're in core, if you accidentally shoot off target, you won't kill the enemy if you're not aiming at their head. So it's better if you're not doing hardcore, but if you want to, feel free. You could also play other small map mosh pits if they're around as well. So for example, in a week's time, there's going to be Terminal 24/7 as a map mosh pit. There's going to be a Modern Warfare 2 kind of throwback mosh pit, which is going to have several of the Modern Warfare 2 maps. I'll talk about this in a minute. There's going to be an experimental mosh pit, and there may later down the line be also something like a Shipment 24/7 mosh pit as well. So if there's something like that, then obviously go for that. But for now, those are kind of the best modes around. There's not too many great ones at the moment. That's always the way at the start of the game. That's just the way it is. Now, in terms of maps, what maps are best that you want to play on to get these headshots? There's lots of good maps this year. There's a massive selection of maps, all the original Modern Warfare 2 maps, which is great. I love them. So there's quite a few which can be good for headshots. So the first one is Rust. Obviously, it's quite small. You can go up high in the center of the map, but I'd recommend staying on the ground. There's lots of enemies nearby. You can get close to people quite easily, so it's just great for getting headshots. Other good maps are ones like Scrapyard or Skid Row is quite good. Sub Base is good. Favela's not too bad. Terminal's quite good as well. Karachi's alright. Quarry is alright, and High Rise is alright. So there's some better than others, but definitely quite a few good ones for headshots. And like I say, there'll also be some Modern Warfare 2 maps. So the ones from Modern Warfare 2 2022, they're going to port over into Modern Warfare 3. Just a few for now. They might bring more later, but a few for now. And those ones are going to be Farm 18, Mikado, Shoot House, and even though it hasn't been mentioned, I believe Shipment is also rumoured to come as well. I think it'll be the Modern Warfare 2 version of Shipment, so on the actual ship. I was hoping they'd change that, but I don't think they will at the moment. So some of those will come next week. I'm sure others will come at the start of Season 1, but for now, those are the other Modern Warfare 2 maps that are going to come. So obviously try and vote for these kind of maps when you're going into games, as that's going to improve your chance of getting a headshot. And over time, like I say, more maps will be added. So if there's a new map that's added that is a high kill, close quarters combat type map, try and get into that map or mosh pit more often to increase your chance of getting headshots. So those are the best maps and modes and class setup. I want to quickly talk about some overall quick tips to help you get headshots more quickly as well. So the first thing is, if you find that the enemy is just kind of like too zoomed out and you can't see the head properly, definitely would recommend changing your field of view or FOV. So if you go to the graphics settings, you can turn that down. If you turn it down, it will kind of zoom in more so you can see the enemies more clearly because they'll be bigger. Whereas if you turn up your field of view, it will kind of zoom it out so you can see more around you, but what you see in front of you is going to be more zoomed out and it's not as big. So it's more difficult to see where the head is, which makes it more difficult. So even if you guys like high FOV, would recommend turning it down slightly for getting headshots, as it will make it a little bit easier. The next thing I'd say is obviously do try and aim for the head, either where you see someone's head actually being or where you expect someone's head to be if they were to come around a corner. Just get ready so that whenever you go around a corner, if there's someone there, you know roughly where to go and you can quickly just lock onto their head and get to headshot. Don't try and rush too much and try to line up the shot if possible, but don't rush too much, otherwise you might shoot them in the wrong place like the torso and then you won't get a headshot and it won't count. The next thing I'd recommend is adjusting your sensitivity or aim down sight sensitivity if you need. So if you find that you're kind of overshooting the target a lot, you need to turn your sensitivity down. If you find it's taking too long to aim at the enemy and you're dying in the gunfights, then you need to turn your sensitivity up. So just find the sweet spot for you. It will take a little bit of getting used to, but after a while it is worth it, because if your sensitivity is a little bit higher, then you're able to lock onto the enemy more quickly, which is great. And like I say, a slower playstyle may help, so don't run and gun too much, try and be a little bit slower, otherwise you'll be more likely to die if you're running around. And I would recommend also using the stun grenades, as these will stun or confuse enemies, which will immobilize them and make them an easier target to get headshots on, because they can be more stationary while you come up to them and get headshots. The other thing I say is watch your minimap, UAV and your compass just to see where enemies are. Try and go towards them. Use your perks to help you with that too. I'd also recommend looking out for enemies in windows or doorways or behind cover or prone, as it makes it easier to aim for the head. So if they're in a window, it will cut off most of their body, so it makes it easier to know where their head is and it makes it easier to get a headshot. If they're lying prone, if they're facing straight in front of you, then obviously you just need to aim straight ahead at the floor to get the headshot. So it's kind of good as it kind of blocks off the body. So when people in those positions, it is easier to get headshots, so do take advantage of that. And also don't forget to check spawns. There'll be a lot of inactive people from time to time in those spawns, so make sure you go and check them, clear them out to get the headshot. Just don't rush, go up to them slowly, get your headshot. It's a free very easy headshot, which is great. And the final thing I'd say is just make sure you're using the black light flashlight, i.e. the tracker perk, which is, it's a piece of gear in this game, but it's normally the tracker perk, as it helps you to find where enemies are via their footsteps. So obviously just follow them around. If you see footsteps going off in one direction, follow them. As you'll then come up behind the enemy, they'll be less likely to see you and you're much more likely to get the kill. So those are all the tips I've got for getting headshots. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, be sure to leave a like so that other people can find this guide too. Check out my other Modern Warfare 3 guides, like I've got a camo guides playlist for all the other camo guide challenges. I'm going to be adding more guides regularly throughout the year. And if you like what you see, make sure to subscribe and turn post notifications on to stay up to date with all my latest Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone videos. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys found it helpful, and I'll see you all on the next one.